I know many of you have been longing to be on our campus, to be in our sanctuary. And it was important for me to bring the sanctuary to you today and perhaps next week as well, because the time that we're in the midst of is vitally important, and sometimes it's helpful to be surrounded by the symbols of the church, by where we know there is an unfailing presence of God. And so I offer this message in this space that is truly blessed and beloved, so that you might hear with open hearts and open ears. In this time, it's hard to figure out. There's so much to say. How do we do it in these short little pieces? Today, I actually have two messages for you. And so I invite you to listen to the first one and then make sure that you catch up with the second one. There'll be a song in between if you're watching the whole service together. But it was important for me to divide this up a little bit, to talk about the cry, the holy cry that we hear from people, which has been a people's journey since the beginning of humanity. And then the holy hope that comes. And the two are separate and yet together. And so hopefully today we can unpack a little bit of that. So as we begin, would you pray with me, please? Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing and acceptable to you this day. For you truly are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. We begin today with Psalm 102, the very beginnings. Lord, hear my prayer. Let my cry reach you. Don't hide your face from me in my time of trouble. Listen to me. Answer me quickly as I cry out. I don't know about you. I'm spending an awful lot of time crying these days. I rarely even put on makeup because it's always streaming down my face. These tears, sometimes very, very personal, and sometimes there is this corporate grief that surrounds me, not only for what we're dealing with as a world with coronavirus and all of the deaths that have happened as a result of it, but as a nation, the depth of the pain that we're seeing revealed again and again and again. There are 7.5 billion people or more on this planet. There are some, given whatever statistical table you're watching, 331 million people just in our country. 700,000 or so here in Las Vegas. Every single one of those people is a child of God. Every single life. And yet, the world, the way that it is right now, there is such great suffering. We are in need of a great change, of course. And we know, history tells us, that change doesn't come easy. But sometimes it is just absolutely necessary. This holy cry, this cry from our black brothers and sisters now in this time is vitally important. When George Floyd cried out as he was dying for his mama, there was a little meme on Facebook talking to all who have been mothers, that his cry was a call to attention for each one of us. And I know that it's Father's Day, but the two are very connected. This cry for mothers reminds me of when I went to Rome, to St. Peter's Basilica, way back in the late 90s somewhere, to see the entire place, but in particular for me, Michelangelo's Pietà. To see Mary holding Jesus in her grief. How many times of late, how many times through the 400 years of this country have we seen Black mothers and fathers hold their children, no matter the age of the child, in sheer grief? The crying out is loud. Can you hear it? Let my cry reach you, O God. Later in our song we hear this: my God, don't take me away in the prime of my life. Can you hear those words as well in the midst of our history and our treatment of each other? This crying out, these images of violent death, like Jesus, killed at the hand of government or authorities, like us. We are in a place where something needs to be done. But in that image of Mary holding her child, in my mind I see an image of God wrapping God's arms around each person who has died, but in particular those who have died of violent acts, and truly being held with love. I believe, as sad as it is, that we've become a world of hardened hearts, and that doesn't serve us well. Broken lives, broken hearts, broken for us in this country with racism, systemic through our government, through the ways that we act. In her book, White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo talks about people asking the question, well, we have Black History Month. Why do we not have White History Month? Have you ever thought about that? It is because everything around us has that perspective, that the white life is superior and everything revolves around it. Her book, I haven't finished it yet, has opened my eyes in a way that have been so unexpected. Why have we gotten to this place? Why have we forgotten the humanity of all? That each one is a child of God, and hear our cry corporately together. Listen to me, Lord. Listen to me. Hear my cry. Don't turn your face from me. 400 years plus. Friday was Juneteenth, and there were celebrations all over this country. But had you really paid attention to even what that holiday is about? There are still 3 states in our union that have not said that the Emancipation Proclamation is real. It's not on their books. But even stores and corporations are saying, oh, this is important. We need to do something to make a difference. Even our United Methodist Church, you may not know this, in our Constitution, Article 5 is on racial justice. The United Methodist Church proclaims the value of each person as a unique child of God and commits itself to the healing and wholeness of all persons. The United Methodist Church recognizes that the sin of racism has been destructive to its unity throughout history. Racism continues to cause a painful division and marginalization. The United Methodist Church shall confront and seek to eliminate racism, whether in organizations or in individuals or in every facet of its life and its society at large. It's in the depth of who we are. To say, no, the way we are treating, the way we have treated our black brothers and sisters is wrong. And again, I don't mean to say that other lives don't matter. They do. But at this particular time in history, they need our help. And so I invite you as a church to think about, how should we cry out and stand with those who need our help? How do we do that as a church? The pain, the perpetual pain and suffering is our stuff to look at. Those of you who look like me with our light skin and our way of living in the world without much thought to those who suffer around us. Let us cry out too. For I do believe, dear brothers and sisters, that God is listening. I do not believe that our cries are unheard. I believe that is why we are seeing this shifting course all around us. Our world is changing. God is listening. The cries are being heard. How do we move forward from here? You've just heard a couple of verses from 1 Peter. Peter has a lot to say to his community about how we should be in relationship with one another, and certainly how we should act as followers of Jesus. We are called as Christians to a different way. We may not think about that very much. Back in the days when many churches had laws against dancing and drinking and things like that, it was maybe easy to distinguish a certain brand of Christianity or a brand of Protestantism. But nowadays it's a little rough, and we don't think much about what it means to live a different life. But Peter invites us to have once our minds, listen to that, we have to get to there, once our minds are ready for action and we're thinking clearly, that's a message for us too, place your hope completely on the grace that will be brought to you when Jesus is revealed. Don't be conformed to former desires. I think that means we have to change. We talked about change just a bit ago. Don't be shaped or behave in the way from when you were ignorant. That's no longer a way to live. We've been called to task. We need to follow through on that task. It goes on, be as obedient children. You must be holy in every aspect of your lives, just as the one who calls you is holy. You will be holy because I am holy. How do we get there? How do we get to the place of that much change? We need to do some editing. We need to edit our own way of living, which, as we've talked about many times, we can use St. Ignatius and his examine at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day to kind of drill down and pay attention to what our thoughts and feelings and understandings about racism and about what anti-racism might look like for us, as specifically me as a white person in this country. But that editing of our lives, I believe, needs to happen in a big way. You see the names of just 4 of the people who have been just recently brought to our attention. And I don't choose these 4 for any other reason except for they're the ones I am most familiar with. George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. These are people who have died at the hand of another human being. And it is therein that we have this rub. They are all Black Americans whose lives have been cut short. But in our editing, I am not allowed to take my red pen and cross them out and just ignore them. I can't do that. You see, because my faith says that I might only lift them in love. When I was in high school, I was editor of our yearbook for 3 of the 4 years I was there. So when I was a senior, I spent actually an entire class period and then after school in the office for yearbook editing. I think I probably got that bug because my mom was an editor even for her college newspaper years and years and years before I was in high school. My senior year, this is my yearbook, we used the theme Flight Through, the theme of birds taking off. We did a lot of writing and editing in our work. And as I looked at this week, I was struck by the foreword to what we had begun. I graduated in 1974, so if you can remember back to those days. We wrote, like the sweeping motion of a bird in flight, the days pass quickly, each different but resembling the past. Oh, isn't that true? So many things to do, places to go, challenges to meet, and goals to pursue. That's how we live, right? It continues. In no other place is one able to take advantage of so many opportunities. And I was given great pause at that phrase. Yes, if you were like me. It continues. Here, among your peers, is the best place to express yourself physically, mentally, artistically, and socially. Yes, if you looked like me. And then it asks these questions again, causing me great pause. What have you done? What have you prepared for life? Did you build a foundation from which you can live a wholesome, rewarding life? Whoa, that was a long time ago. As yearbook editor, we did a lot of writing, but we also did a lot of editing, even with red pens, maybe not heavy magic markers. Choices of pictures. We had 3 or 4 photographers that were running around the campus and all the activities all the time, and we went through pictures and we edited this part of this one, this part of this one. It was all about choice. My dear friends, that's what these days are about now. It is about choice. Yes, it's about choice of whether we're going to gather in mass gatherings without a mask and deal with the threat of coronavirus spreading through us. It's also about choices of how we will stand and support Black lives in our community, in our nation. It is about choices. And sometimes it's going to mean that we are going to have to edit out parts of our lives because there's no more room for some of our behavior. There's no more room for us to not accept what these verses invite us into. You will be holy because I am holy. What parts of my life, your life, do we need to edit out because they are not holy? How about we treat one another in a new way? The end of this short passage that was read for you says this. God, who judges all people according to their actions without favoritism, we call upon God. You should conduct yourselves, see this clearly, this is ancient, right? With reverence during the time of your dwelling in this strange land. Isn't that where we are? We are in a strange land. We need to live a new way. We need to edit out the parts of our lives, of our communities, of our policies, of our government, about the way we act and interact in this world, and create, as we always talk about, with God, something new. It's there. Remember, God is listening. God is not ignoring our cries. Oh, my friends, a holy cry, a holy hope in Jesus. Now we take the red pen in whatever ways we need to and get rid of that which causes harm and build that which offers love and hope through Jesus. Amen.